I've always loved this old house. Tucked away in the quiet woods of Oregon, it was my sanctuary, my escape from the world. Every creak of the floorboards, every draft from the old window frames, it was all part of its charm. I knew this house like the back of my hand. I knew every room, every corner, every imperfection. That's why, when the new window appeared, my world tilted on its axis. It was in the upstairs hallway, a long narrow corridor that connected my bedroom to the guest rooms and the study. I walked that hallway dozens of times a day. There had never been a window there. It was just a plain wall, adorned with a few old family photographs. But one Tuesday morning, there it was. A perfectly normal-looking single-pane window, about 2 feet by 3 feet, set right in the middle of the wall where a picture of my grandparents used to hang. My first thought was that I was losing my mind. Sleep deprivation, maybe. I'd been working long hours. I touched the frame. It was real. Smooth, cool wood, painted the same off-white as the rest of the trim in the house. It was seamless, as if it had been there for 100 years. I looked closer, trying to find any sign of new construction, any dust or plaster marks. There was nothing. It was just there. The strangest part was what it looked into, or rather what it didn't look into. My house is 2 stories, but this hallway wall was an interior one. It should have looked into the master bathroom, but it didn't. It looked into a room of pure, solid darkness. It wasn't just the absence of light. It was a thick, oppressive black that seemed to absorb the light from the hallway. I couldn't see a single detail inside. No furniture, no walls, nothing. Just an endless void. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a contractor I forgot I hired did some bizarre, unauthorized renovation. But who would install a window that looks into nothing? I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages. I called my brother, trying to sound casual. Hey, did I ever mention wanting a new window in the upstairs hallway? He laughed. Are you redecorating again? No, can't say you did. Why, I mumbled something about a weird dream and hung up. For the rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'd walk past the hallway, telling myself not to look, but my eyes would be drawn to it every time. That black square on my familiar wall, a portal to nowhere. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the house sounded like a footstep. Every shadow seemed to stretch and twist. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I made my coffee and forced myself to go upstairs. I had to face it. As I reached the top of the stairs, I froze. The window was still there, but it wasn't where it was yesterday. It had moved. It was now about a foot closer to my bedroom door. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was impossible. Houses don't just change. Windows don't just move on their own. I took out a tape measure and measured the distance from the window frame to my bedroom door. 22 feet. I scribbled the number down on a piece of paper, my hand shaking. I knew, without a doubt, that yesterday it had been further away. The view inside hadn't changed. It was still that same impenetrable darkness, but I felt something else now. I felt like I was being watched. I'd stand there, peering into the black, and the fine hairs on my arms would stand on end. It was a cold, unnerving sensation, like something on the other side was peering back. The next day it was closer still, maybe another foot or two. The day after that, even closer. Every single morning, the window migrated down the hallway, a slow, silent procession toward my bedroom. The anxiety was becoming unbearable. I stopped sleeping upstairs. I moved a mattress into the living room, but I could still feel its presence, looming over me from the floor above. I started leaving all the lights on, all the time. My peaceful sanctuary had become a prison of my own making. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? Hello, officer, there's a phantom window in my house, and it's stalking me. They'd think I was crazy. I thought about boarding it up, but the idea of trapping whatever was on the other side filled me with a primal terror I couldn't explain, so I did nothing. I just watched, and I waited. A week had passed since it first appeared. The window was now just outside my bedroom. I could reach out and touch the doorknob and the window frame at the same time. The feeling of being watched was constant, suffocating. I hadn't had a full night's sleep in days. I was living on coffee and fear. That night, I was huddled on the living room sofa, wrapped in a blanket, when a sound from upstairs made me jump. It was a soft, rhythmic tapping tap tap tap. It was coming from the hallway, from the window. Against my better judgment, I crept up the stairs, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my chest. The tapping continued, slow and deliberate. As I reached the top of the stairs, the light from the living room cast a long shadow ahead of me. I peered down the hall, and then I saw it. There was a figure in the window. It was just a silhouette at first, standing in that impossible darkness. But as my eyes adjusted, details began to emerge. The shape of the shoulders, the messy hair, the familiar old t-shirt. My blood ran cold. I was looking at myself. It was my own reflection, but it wasn't. This version of me was inside the dark room, on the other side of the glass. Its face was pale, its eyes wide with a silent, screaming panic. And it was knocking. Its hand was raised, knuckles rapping softly against the pane of glass that separated us. It wasn't a threatening gesture. It was desperate. It was a plea for help. I stood there, paralyzed, a mirror image of the figure in the window. We just stared at each other, two versions of the same person, separated by a thin sheet of glass and an eternity of darkness. Its mouth opened, but no sound came out. It just formed silent words, a desperate, soundless message. I couldn't breathe. The air was thick and heavy. The silent knocking continued, a ghostly heartbeat in the dead of night. This wasn't a monster from another dimension. It was me, or a part of me, trapped in that non-existent room, looking out at the life I was supposed to be living. I finally found my voice, a choked whisper. "Who are you?" The figure in the window stopped knocking. It pressed its face against the glass, its breath fogging the pain. Its eyes, my eyes, were filled with a terrifying, profound sadness. And then, it smiled. A slow, cold, terrible smile that didn't reach its eyes. That's when I understood. The window wasn't moving toward my bedroom. It was moving toward me. And I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that once it reached me, the glass would disappear, and we would be in the same room. I turned and fled. I ran out of the house and didn't look back. I drove until the sun came up, and I haven't been back since. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, and for a second I think I can hear it. That soft, silent knocking. I don't know what happened to that house, or to the me that was trapped inside that window, but I know that a part of me is still there, in that dark room in Oregon, staring out, and waiting. And I'm afraid that one day it will find a new window to look through. Maybe in your house, maybe in mine. Thank you for watching. If you have your own unexplainable story, share it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there.